We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to Michael Evans with America's Voice Now. I'm your host this hour. We'll be joined in a little bit by Doreen Hannes. Doreen, as you know, is the purveyor of truthfarmer.com, one of the best blogs out there for those interested in the agricultural world and where things are headed in terms of our national food supply. In addition to that, she is also one of the purveyors of PRC News and .org, by the way. That's Property Rights Coalition organizations. And I got to tell you, we are fast approaching a period in which I believe that we are about to be politically out of solutions here. I've posted a number of different stories and images and issues up on Facebook this morning. And I have to tell you that you know what's going on in our nation, so I understand why people don't want to be involved. I recognize that they're concerned about their deepest fear is to be faced with the challenges and the problems that our nation is encountering. And I realize why they don't want to know, because knowledge comes with a price. That price oftentimes requires that person who is knowledgeable is now required to react or act upon that knowledge. And the vast majority of America doesn't want to be bothered with what's going on in our nation. They don't want to be concerned. They don't want to have to take action. They would prefer to go along blithely in ignorance, self-imposed and willful ignorance, but ignorance nonetheless. And, that is symptomatic of the endemic cancer that has pervaded our nation. You know, I posted a story up there this morning that, there was 6 new Americans that were killed in a car bombing in Afghanistan. And as I read that story, the burden of it was so deep. And all I could write was, America groans in her pain as this cancer spreads throughout her once great body. Her mind enfeebled, her body broken, her spirit all but vanquished. The death rattle can be heard emanating from deep within her throat. Six more of America's greatest treasure. It's not our money. It's our youth, who were squandered by dirty little men who play with the toys of our children's lives. Sneaking about, plotting, furtive, dirty little slime-laden politicians and bureaucrats, sycophants and carpetbaggers, who make a living on the blood of our brave and honorable young men and women. I'm heartbroken. And you should be too. Our nation is awash in corruption and scandal. The dirt of those who play with other people's lives for power and money. We're supporting all manner of terrorists and tyrants around the world, tin pot dictators all, with tax dollars of American people who are struggling just to feed their own family. This is treason against humanity. This goes beyond treason against a government. This goes beyond treason of a political system. This goes beyond the treason of our Constitution and our Republic. This is treason of humankind. These are shadows and palpable evil. These men and these women who feel as if we're all just pawns on a board. They've been in control for so long, and they're so deeply embedded. They operate with immunity and impunity. They play with us as if we were ants on a table. They have no shred of humanity or the beauty and the brilliance and the gifts that God and nature have given to them. They've sold their birthright for an ounce of earthly and worldly power, which they use in the most heinous and inhumane ways. Their goal is subjugation while they raise their own levels of power and ego. And I find that shameful, unconscionable, inhuman, evil. It is evil. Doesn't have to be evil in a biblical sense, although it is certainly all of that. This is the evil of man. This is the evil of power. This is the evil that men's souls descend into when they're so narcissistic, when they're so embroiled in their own little world, when all they crave is power and assuagement of their own ego. This is evil on an unprecedented scale. We're not talking about subjugating a small group of individuals. We're not talking about the enslavement of a people. We're talking here about the enslavement of the entire species of mankind. These are crimes against humanity, which no punishment, we could not put these people in enough or long enough in a prison. We could not do enough to punish them for the crimes against humanity that they are engendering every single day. There is no punishment that can suffice. When you betray your own species, this is beyond the rule of law to deal with. This is beyond the capability of a court or a judicial body. Treason of this caliber, treason on this level against humanity, against the species of humankind, is beyond our comprehension. And they plot, and they scam, and they sneak like rats, like vermin. They work to destroy us from within. America. Americans, where are you? Where is your heart, your soul, your spirit, your mind? Where is your faith?
Hi, it's Hugh Hewitt on the next Hugh Hewitt Show. The next governor of Virginia, Ken Cuccinelli. The current senator from South Dakota, John Thune. I'll also be joined by Bill Kristol, and we'll talk with all of them about immigration reform and what is ahead in the United States Senate, and Marco Rubio. Don't miss any minute of the next Hugh Hewitt Show.
Sundays from 6 till 7, following Money Talk with Bob Brinker, it's the Weekend Journal with Hugh Hewitt on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1.
Having difficulty with your computer? Do you think it has a mind of its own? Well, don't be alarmed. This happens to everyone at some point in time. Worry no more. Computer Dave and Kyle can help you out with PC Geeks, a weekly show right here on 107.1 The Point. Tune in Thursdays at 1 o'clock to ask computer-related questions and listen to the web topic of the week. That's PC Geeks here on 107.1 The Point.
So this is America's voice, the voice that we try to share, the voice that tries to express what the vast majority out there feels. I hope we're doing that job well. I want to bring Doreen Hannes on. Doreen is the purveyor and the creator of truthfarmer.com. As I'd mentioned earlier, this is one of the best blogs out there for following and understanding where our nation is and where we have gone wrong in reference to the most basic necessity of life, our food, our water, our basic ability to function as human beings, and how that's being taken from you also. Good morning, Doreen.
Good morning, Michael.
How you doing?
I am doing all right because today is the last day of session, so
yeah,
that helps.
I got you. Hey, there's a caller on who wanted to kind of comment on my monologue. If you don't mind, I'll bring him on.
I don't mind a bit.
Good morning, caller. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'll make it real quick, Mike. Back in the late 1980s, I don't know if you know it, but there was a psychiatrist by the name of M. Scott Peck who wrote this book called People of the Lie. And this
I've heard of the book, but I've not read it.
Well, it's definitely a must-read, I would say. He just draws on his years in psychiatry, and he came to the conclusion that there are people who actively choose and embrace evil. They do it because they like it. And I think that when we look at why some of the motivations, we wonder, how can some people do the things that they're doing, like what we're seeing going on now with the Obama administration? But I think part of the answer lies in there are people that really dig what they're doing. They really like hurting people, and this is their modus operandi.
Well, there's no doubt about the fact that there are a significant number of people on this planet whose sole interest is in the sadistic punishment of other beings. And I don't know how you get around that. I don't know how you resolve that issue. It's a failing in humanity. And people are unwilling and incapable of controlling themselves. And they're more interested in what they can do to destroy, life, the lives of others, while I suppose building up their own. It's incomprehensible to me.
Well, Peck gives the answer. It's not a very hopeful one, but he said in some cases, all we can do is confront it.
Well,
and realizing, that it may be a losing proposition for us, but
sure,
you can't run from it because it will come after you.
Well, I appreciate your comment and your insight on that. Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right. So, Doreen, our problem here is that we are so embroiled in so many different things that are, for all intents and purposes, are evil. I mean, I don't see a quick and easy solution to this. and it's growing, and their power and ability to influence those around us and on ourselves is dangerous, and dangerous in an extreme manner. I mean, we don't have the ability to stand up and fight any longer when we have no privacy. Our ability to effectively redress our government has been taken away, and we're threatened and coerced into silence, and it's a dangerous place for us to be. Yes. I don't think our republic has ever been in this kind of danger before, even with the first Civil War. And you notice that I use the term the first because I believe that at this point I'm not sure that we can avoid a second. I don't know how to do that. I mean, without a massive, peaceful, civil disobedient approach to just demanding the government end itself and starving it out, I don't know how we move forward.
Well, I honestly believe, Mike, that the absolute best thing that people can do is prepare their family and themselves for weathering a complete dissolution of this power structure. Because what I see happening is I don't necessarily think that people are going to, take up arms and move against the oppressor, but I think that basically the way that I see this unfolding is that the scandal after scandal, the issues with the economy, all of these things are going to come to a head and cause those who want to oppress us and desire to control us to go ahead and take it all down so that our infrastructure is destroyed and we don't have the capacity to continue a peaceful existence, Mike. And, that's what I see coming, because all of these scandals, all of these like very, very serious financial issues are going to come home to roost, and the scandals destroy the ability of the control mongers to keep us in the dark and keep us from being outraged any longer. I mean, it's just one after another after another. I mean, Benghazi should have been enough to have Obama impeached. That should have been sufficient alone.
Here's the problem, and these aren't my words. Joseph Pulitzer, the inventor or the founder of the Pulitzer Prize, or who it was named after, he said, "Our republic and its press will rise or fall together." And when we look at what our press has done in an effort to aid and assist and abet tyranny,
yes,
we have to wonder, is there a hope for our republic in the sense that we have some way to unwind the spring, to turn back the clock? Is there a way for us to go back home? And anyone who's reached any age of adulthood knows that you can't go back home. And what I fear for our country is that even in the event that we were to see a mass and peaceful civil uprising where everyone just said, we're done, we're finished, we're stopping, we're not leaving here, we demand that you leave, and until you do, we will sit here in stasis.
Right.
Even if that happens, how do we go back? How do we unwind the technology? How do we take the cameras out? How do we get rid of the NSA and the trillions of terabytes that they're storing on people? How do we how do we get these bureaucrats who are unnamed and unaccountable, and the masses of them, the squirming maggots, the can of Washington full of teeming maggots, how do we get them out? How do we remove them? How do we isolate that and say, this can't happen again?
That is the question, isn't it? Generally speaking, the thing that has worked is dragging these writhing maggots, if you will, kicking and screaming out into the light of public recognition for their deeds. Now,
but there's so many of them, Doreen. I mean, their numbers are endless, and I mean endless.
Well, I think the only thing to do is to basically do what is espoused in the Constitution, that whenever a government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right and the duty of the people to abolish it and establish a new government to secure their happiness.
But as I said in my monologue, the vast majority of America doesn't want to know because they don't want to have guilty knowledge. So they willfully refuse to accept and acknowledge that all these problems even exist.
Well, and that's why I think that, unfortunately, what we are going to see happen is going to be very destructive to life actions that will occur on the financial or in some type of war scenario here. And I don't think it's going to be a civil war. I do not think that's going to be the impetus for it, Michael. I know that the DHS has, plenty of ammunition and all of this kind of thing, but I think what it's going to be is it's going to be perceived as an external issue. We're going to be attacked is what I believe is going to happen, whether or not it's legitimate, a false flag, or a legitimate attack. I think that's what's going to happen.
Well,
to bring about their control, because they want total control. These are people of the psychological mindset who cannot be appeased unless they have absolute control and put themselves in a position through technology of trying to achieve omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence through technology, Michael. They think that they are like the Most High, and they're going to use technology to strive to achieve that.
I mean, the whole idea of what's going on, and I'm not just talking about domestically, I'm talking about this Agenda 21. Agenda 21 calls for a maximum of somewhere between 1 and 1.5 billion people on the planet. That means 6 billion of us are in the way. Mm-hmm. And, the latest UN story out there, which is out on the New American, and I posted it up on our Facebook and our website, it says, let them eat bugs.
Right.
I mean, this is just, it's inhuman.
Well, yes, it is. And, here's the issue. They're selling this Malthusian proposition where it's like, we don't have enough to supply for the number of people who are here. And so we have to go with GMOs, and we have to go with all this consolidation and all of this control and all of these other parameters that constrain people from being able to provide for themselves. We have enough that we could feed 12 billion people right now, even with the destruction of agriculture that we have, not only in this country but in other countries. However, our country is really the leader in the destruction of independent farming, Mike. So we have the capacity to feed all of these people, but politics and corporate greed get in the way of that and cause a lot of famine. They cause all of this starvation.
Well, that's how they plan on doing it, with starvation. I mean, there's not enough bullets out there to take everybody. And the Nazis learned of trying to dispose of millions of bodies is no easy task, but mass starvation just turns entire nations into wastelands.
Well,
and I mean, people say, well, that can't happen. Well, it did happen. Stalin did it to 50 million people in the Ukraine. 50 million.
Right.
I mean, that's 1/6 of our entire population.
And here's the issue, and it comes down to this. Control the food, you control the population. You control all the people if you control the food. Right now, there's less than 2% of our entire country engaged in agriculture. There's approximately 3 days' worth of food in every major city. So you cut off those supply lines, and in no time at all, you have massive rioting, looting, raping, and pillaging going on, because you cannot maintain civility when you're hungry, and particularly when your kids are hungry. It turns people into animals.
I've said to listeners many, many times, that person who you had, a beer with on your back porch last week, or you guys sat around and talked about a movie that you both enjoyed or you wanted to go see, that's the same guy that will kill you for a can of peas in your cupboard when his children haven't eaten in 10 days.
Right. And, so the thing to do is for people to see this and to prepare in advance.
Well, and we can talk about that when we come back. We're going to take a break. I guess my fear with that is, how do you prepare? I mean, look at the folks over and look at the people around the world who have been, Afghanistan, a 20-year war against the Soviet Union, and then a 10 or 12-year war against us. Right. How do you prepare for a 30-year war? We'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to America's Voice Now.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. The Treasury Department's top investigator telling Congress details about his probe of the IRS.
The IRS's inappropriate criteria remained in effect for approximately 18 months.
J. George Russell also saying he's still investigating what caused agents to improperly target conservative groups. House Ways and Means Committee also hearing from Stephen Miller, the ousted as acting head of the agency.
Panel member, Louisiana Republican Charles Boustany, is not happy with White House responses so far.
We know that from the beginning they have not been forthcoming.
Meanwhile, the woman who is in charge of the IRS division that deals with tax-exempt organizations has a new job. Sarah Hall Ingram is now head of the unit responsible for enforcing Obamacare.
Fox Radio's Rich Johnson in North Texas. The cleanup continues from deadly twisters this week, which killed 6 people and left 7 people still missing. Fox News. We report, you decide.
Thanks to Jason over at Wits End Classic Barbershop for sponsoring our phone lines. You can call our Wits End Classic Barbershop hotline, and you can get over there and get yourself shaving a haircut. 2 bits. Well, a little bit more than 2 bits. Thanks to our friends over at Pizza Hut as well. On Porter Wagoner Boulevard, they have an outstanding lunch special. And on Tuesday nights, they have Kids Eat Free. Children under 12 eat for free. They're on Porter Wagoner Boulevard in West Plains. Make sure you visit Pizza Hut. Our friends at the Battery Station, 303 Washington Avenue at batterystation.com. You can also reach them via telephone at 257-7799. Folks over at West Plains Pawn and Gun. Kenny's a friend of ours and a great supporter of our program. 417-256-3000, located about a mile and a half on Route 160 past Walmart. You can reach him also on the web at westplainspawn.com. Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance, half-mile east of Walmart at Route 62 in Mountain Home. You can find them on the web at ozarkmtnselfreliance.com. And you can call them at 870-492-4030. My friend Mary over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, the best damn bakery in 100 miles. She can be reached at 417-255-2253. You can also find her at number 2 Evans Arcade. Outstanding bakery. Bill Stone over at Stone Construction at 2930116. Whether remodeling, building new, or doing some kind of custom construction like commercial or farm work, Bill's the guy for you. 2930116. America's Voice Now, delivering truth over mainstream propaganda every single day. Hi, my name is Michael Evans, and I'm your host, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., and Saturday morning from 6 to 9 a.m. Join me daily for important guests and my unique slant on hot topics in the news. Visit americasvoicenow.org for even more news, articles, and commentary, and watch our show streaming live to your PC. Share your morning with me. Get educated, informed, motivated, and activated. America's Voice Now, right here on 107.1.
Weather is a service of News Talk 107.1 The Point. Contact Josh or Cody at 255-2548 for more information on making weather sponsorships part of your marketing plans.
From the Point Weather Center for this morning, clouds and some showers. There'll be a shower or thunderstorm around as we head through the day. The high 76. Partly to mostly cloudy tonight, low 64. Partly sunny tomorrow, high 84. Partly sunny Sunday, high 86. I'm staff meteorologist Jim Rinaldi, and for more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
If you're looking for great deals on iPads or Kindles, look no further than your neighborhood Radio Shack authorized sales center. They've got great deals on the latest iPads and Kindles. Maybe you need a new GPS or an MP3 player to get your music library ready for those barbecues. Whatever your electronic needs, stop by your local neighborhood Radio Shack authorized dealer in West Plains at 1408 Southern Hills Shopping Center or call 417-256-1819.
Okay, we're back and into our third segment. Doreen, as I see it, the challenge is that, we're not, I think most folks are not in a position where they're prepared for this. And I fear that, every time I go out on a speaking engagement, I encourage people to create a small network of their own, even if it's just, friends and family kind of networks, right? And be part of a larger community network. And yet I constantly hear the same refrain. I don't want to be on another list. Well, with all due respect, you're already on 100 lists. How ridiculous is that concept? You're on 100 lists, and by the way, you're not on the pro side of those lists. You're on the con side of every one of those lists.
Right.
And so what makes you afraid to be on one more? You've got a Facebook page. They've already got a dossier on you. They know what color socks you wear. I mean, you told them what you had for lunch last week.
The information age. And
these people are worried about being on a list.
Right.
I don't understand it. And you're already on the con side of every list you're on. So, and if you're not a real con yet, you will be shortly.
Well, they'll just pass a law and we're all criminals, and there you go.
I mean, this concept of being afraid, first of all, if that doesn't tell you that the idea of being a part of a network, if you fear your government so much that you don't want to be on a list, I rest my case about whether or not we should be rising up and preserving our republic. Because just that statement in and of itself tells me everything and tells you everything that you need to know.
If you're afraid, you really had better get active, because the tyranny grows when people don't resist it. That's the issue. But,
this UN thing about insects, right? Mm-hmm. The UN recognizes that there is we're talking about using bugs as livestock and a food source, right?
Right.
And they clearly understand and even acknowledge that eating bugs is repulsive to most folks in Western countries.
Yes.
And so they have, and they even admitted in the report, so they have a plan to deal with that. They are creating a partnership with a university in the Netherlands to outline a propaganda campaign that will include tailored media communication strategies and educational programs that address the disgust factor.
Right.
I mean, they have an entire public relations and education propaganda campaign that they're lining up right now that would be needed to prod people into eating these things.
Yes.
And the West will be the primary targets because we're the ones who would be the most or the least likely to want to eat, insects as food supplies. And so, well, in many third world countries, they already do. I mean, so it's not necessarily a question of can you or should you. It's a question of why don't you in many third world countries. They do eat them. And so they're not going to have to work as hard there as they are here, right?
Sell it, right?
To sell the concept. Mm-hmm. But I mean, just the idea that they know that the vast majority of the Western world is going to balk at this means that they have the guilty knowledge that what they're doing is incorrect and wrong anyway. Because look, we produce more than enough food to feed the entire planet.
Yes.
In fact, I think the United States alone produces enough food to feed the entire planet.
Well, we could, and we have in the past, but things are now so hyper-regulated and hyper-controlled, and the destruction of the family farm is nearly complete, so that we have now lost the ability to feed ourselves. But it's not because of lack of resources or lack of knowledge. It's because of constraints in the marketplace, Mike. And it's a forced attrition is what we're dealing with.
Right. Well, here's the perfect example, right? In Venezuela, the story this morning is they have run out of toilet paper. I kid you not.
Mm-hmm.
This is the honest truth.
Yeah.
Venezuela has run out of toilet paper, and they have to import 50 million rolls under an emergency national program. And yet their minister of propaganda is blaming the shortage on excessive demand caused by media campaigns generated to disrupt the country. So what are you telling me? That your media has actually scared the poop out of everybody? Is that what you're trying to tell me, Mr. Propagandist? I mean, first it was milk.
Use, yes.
Right. First it was milk, then it was butter, coffee, and cornmeal. Now Venezuela is out of the basic necessity of toilet paper.
Right.
I mean, this is unbelievable. And what this is this is a shortage that is created by the government's efforts to maintain and manage the idea of what and what you can use, how you can use it.
Right.
It's their function of control, and all it takes is one bureaucratic dipstick to drop the ball.
Right.
Right.
Forget to order the toilet paper.
And since they own the paper mills, they're turning the paper instead of into toilet paper into new laws that they've got to print up billions of copies of. And I mean, it's just, this is beyond comprehension. I mean, something as basic as, what really bothers me about it? The nanny state insists on being the ones who want to wipe your ass, but the politicians don't want to get their hands dirty.
Well, of course they don't.
I mean, this is just absolutely absurd and ridiculous.
Well, right, but that's really a good indication of where we'll be going. And my mother-in-law has a great saying: you can never have too much toilet paper.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What they're doing, though, is by controlling prices and controlling market flow, which is the antithesis exactly of capitalism.
Right.
They've created this shortage, and they're always man-made. I mean, there is no such thing as a monopoly absent government's intervention and involvement.
Exactly.
A monopoly cannot exist without government's intervention and assistance in whoever is the beneficiary of that monopoly.
That's right.
That's the simple reality of it. And this is the future they have envisioned for America.
Well, this is the future that they've been implementing, and for quite some time, mind you. We've got laws on the books, antitrust and anti-monopoly laws,
but if
they haven't enforced.
I've read a number of different studies about our antitrust laws, and I have to tell you, those antitrust laws were actually written. I mean, they're called an antitrust law, but like everything else that the government names, it's always a name that is almost always opposite its actual function. And these antitrust laws were actually written to bolster and provide a bulwark and a foundation for monopolistic trusts to be developed but controlled by the government. So their concept was, we're going to pass a law that says you can't be a monopoly unless we say so.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really thuggery. It's mob tactics being used on a national scale.
Well, to some extent, but then, for instance, in the Packers and Stockyards Act, Mike, there is supposed to be a constraint, and there are supposed to be constraints put upon every important segment of our economy, where if you have more than 40% concentration in the top 4 companies owning that segment of the economy, that they cannot expand any further. They can't buy up anymore. But those are not being enforced. And the reason for that is that way you don't end up with a national security issue of a monopoly that is a complete control, and then you run out of toilet paper, or you run out of milk, or you run out of whatever else, But those things are not being enforced. And,
Meanwhile, they're taking over a quarter of 2 different states in Missouri and Arkansas under the National Blue Way.
Right.
And I can tell you right now, I smell where this thing is going from Jump Street. What they're going to do is they're going to start instituting these draconian land use right limitations that are going to, for all intents and purposes, say what you can do with your land. You can't grow on it. You can't build a new building on it or modify. They're going to institute this, which is Agenda 21. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And this Agenda 21 proposal is only the second one in the nation, but they've chosen an area where there are the least people in, for all intents and purposes, a very poor economic district, knowing that the odds of the public standing up and defending themselves are limited.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so what they're doing is this is a trial run, a test run to see how much pushback they're going to get from local citizenry as they begin to control vast swaths of the United States of America under these conservation easements. Now, the word easement ought to tell you everything that you need to know. What it means is that someone else has control over your property.
Right.
And for the life of me, I don't understand how the citizens in this area, in this community, who, for all intents and purposes, are those who claim to be such stalwart patriots and all the rest of that, are not standing up, screaming at the top of their lungs, and parading and seizing and going under siege in a peaceful civil disobedience the federal capital and the capital of the state of Missouri and Arkansas. I don't get it.
Well, Mike, they've been after this area for decades already.
Yeah, I know it. And now they've got their dirty little mitts on it, and they've got them in a way that I think we're going to have a hard time extricating.
I think so.
We'll be back in just 1 second.
Even with all of this going on, the beach is closer than you think. Pacific Beach Tanning and Fitness is open, and now's the time to take advantage of their construction special. Pacific Beach is offering 20% off all tanning packages, gym memberships, and lotions. There's plenty of parking in the back, so don't let a little street construction keep you from the beach. Pacific Beach Tanning and Fitness, 110 Trish Knight Street in West Plains.
Coast to Coast AM brings the Ozarks a whole new feel for radio. Midnight to 6 a.m. every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point. Where else would you get callers talking about everything from UFOs to war trends, from mental energy to anomalies, and from lost knowledge to aliens? Listen to experts and researchers who are part of the guest list every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk. Don't miss Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Midnight to 6 a.m. every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point.
Out of 365 days a year, we celebrate holidays, anniversaries, and other important days. But there is one day you look forward to, your birthday. I wanna wish you a happy birthday. Ryan's Steakhouse of West Plains is proud to bring you the Birthday Club weekday mornings with Cooper & Company. Our daily winner receives one buffet and a drink to Ryan's. Just call your birthdays in weekday mornings with Cooper & Company at 255-0427. Brought to you by Ryan's and the Ozarks Best News Talk.
And happy birthday to you!
Cha-cha-cha-cha. Kim Commando, a.k.a. the Digital Goddess, keeps you plugged in with a daily feature. Kim Commando's Digital Minute. This segment keeps you informed with what's going on in the technology world, along with new tips and tricks to use at home to improve those computer skills. Catch Commando at 7:22 a.m. during Cooper & Company on the Ozarks Best News Talk. If the feature has you craving more, join Kim, the Digital Goddess, Saturdays from noon to 3 on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point.
All right. We are back, folks. We're back in our last segment. We're going to take a couple of quick calls and hear from our listeners what their opinions are. Fire away, sir. You are on the air.
Me?
Yes, sir. That would be you.
In reference to what you were talking about at the beginning of the program, I'm a Baptist preacher.
Yes, sir.
And I tell you what, if you want to know the mindset of people that are in power right now, just read Romans chapter 1. It's called the reprobate mind that cannot understand truth, cannot even receive truth. These are the people that think opposite to everybody else. If a normal person would say protect the and defend the innocent and persecute the guilty, these people think you don't execute killers, but it's okay to kill babies.
Yeah.
Right.
Everything is 180 degrees out of phase. And let me tell you something. They are so depraved, they are so base and wicked that they don't care if everything burns down as long as they rule the ashes.
Yeah. I think then that is the ultimate plan, is to bring this all down and for their phoenix to rise from the ashes instead of ours of liberty and the foundational republic that built this nation. And I truly believe that this administration, and not just this one, by the way, they've been working at this for well over 100 years now.
Yep.
But this administration is the one that's running the relay at the finish line portion, right? And this administration can see the yellow tape at the end of the finish line, right there, and it has poured on all of its power, all of its strength, all of its endurance to try to break that line. And
Absolutely.
I'm telling you that we're so close right now that the runner, in this case Obama, can actually read the fine print on the tape.
Yeah. Well, keep up the good fight, Mike. We're with you.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Go ahead, Doreen. I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. I just, he's absolutely right. The thing is that we are in a position right now where people are calling good evil and evil good.
Right.
And there are entire propagation industries set up to sell that.
Sure.
And, so we have to use our discernment and our critical thinking, and we have to, instead of relying on TV to tell us what to think, we have to sit down and really assess the situation. And we've got to use the right yardsticks to judge stuff by, Mike.
Well, the problem is that America has lost the capacity to do one thing. And I truly believe that this is a serious malfeasance on the part of Americans. And that is the ability to read. You can sit there and be lulled to sleep by that glowing tube.
The cathode ray, yeah.
But I got to tell you, what that's doing to our nation is just beyond comprehension in terms of our inability to understand and critically think. Because what that is has a hypnotic effect on our lives, and it tells us what to think and when to sleep and how to eat and what to eat and what's wrong with us and what's good with us and all the rest of that. And the problem is that what they're telling us is good with us is the complete and absolute 180-degree diametric principle of what is actually good for us.
Right. And they're telling us that if our antidepressant medication isn't working, we should take this other antidepressant medication.
Right. Which, by the way, it leads to suicidal ideations and liver problems and your spleen is going to fall out your butt and all the rest of these sick little side effects that it carries.
But it's FDA approved.
But it's FDA approved, of course, right? Mm-hmm. And you should call your doctor right away if you've got an erection that lasts more than 4 hours. I mean, exactly. Oh my goodness, Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show. On that note, go ahead, caller. You're on.
Hello, General Brigadier here. I don't know what Doreen's rank is, but anyway, appreciate the thoughts here this morning. As to that pastor, I agree with that reprobate mind, and that earlier caller talking about those who dig evil. Deuteronomy 32:21, Mike, says that there are those who are not a people, just a pile of carnal flesh, with no spirit at all of God.
I understand, and that's where we are. That's the time and the place where we find ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. Men are lovers of evil, and it doesn't make any difference where they come from or how they arrived there. The simple reality is that at this point, when you hear and you read the Bible where it says that men will hear truth and refuse to accept it, folks, that's where we're at, right? So.
Hey, one more thing, Mike.
Yeah, quickly, I got other callers. Hit it.
Yeah, people need to chill on that toilet paper. It's an inferior product. Get that paperwork done right. It's paper towels and baby wipes, and the ladies might want to use a little toilet paper and baby wipes.
I'm gonna let the listeners decide that for themselves, pal.
Let that slide.
Really? Right. Let it slide. Good morning, caller. Hit it.
Okay, Mike, I wanted to mention to people the meeting that's going to be at the Civic Center this weekend.
Yes.
They need to come if they want to know what the government has planned.
That's going to be tomorrow morning, actually.
Tomorrow morning?
Yep.
Yeah, a real eye-opener. And so you didn't mention it. I just wanted you to mention it.
You're absolutely correct. I was going to hit it at the end of the show, but now's a good time. I'll give you $1 for that perfect segue introduction. Thank you.
You're welcome.
For those of you who don't have it on your calendar, if you do not show up tomorrow morning at the West Plains Civic Center, you are going to miss an extraordinary opportunity to hear where we're headed and how we're going to try to to defend ourselves from where we're at. Retired Sergeant Major Dan Page from the U.S. Special Forces and currently the St. Louis area law enforcement organization. He'll be speaking to us tomorrow, and I got to tell you, this is going to be an eye-opening event. And if you're not aware or you're not planning on attending, I think you're making a serious mistake. This is going to run from 9:30 a.m. until mid-afternoon. There will be 1 hour for lunch, and no food will be provided. Bring your own biscuit. And here's the deal. Show up here at the West Plains Civic Center at 9:30 in the morning and make sure that you're planning to be here with us at least until a little bit after lunch. This is hosted by the Sons of Liberty, and I think you'll find it a very, very, very worthwhile opportunity to hear what's happening. Also, by the way, just a quick note, but there's an informational meeting on the White River National Blueway that's going to be held by Mr. Doherty on Tuesday, May 21st, and that's at 6:30 p.m. at the Salem, Arkansas VFW Hall. Right. So for those of you who are down in Arkanistan and want to fight back against this Blueways thing, make it your business to attend there and be prepared to hear what's going on and what you can do about it. Go ahead, caller.
Yes. I don't know if I ever gave you a book. I have a book called I See Far, and it's about where electronics came from and what it's done to us.
Yeah.
And the short little quip in it is, a mom came home in a high-rise apartment. Her kids weren't doing their homework. She just pitched the TV out the window, and within minutes there were TVs going out all the windows. Mm-hmm. And that has merit that we need to just shut down the electronics.
I get it. Listen, if you are addicted to that television, folks, and if there are some legitimate, valid uses for it. Yes. Don't misunderstand me. No. But if you're not using them to educate yourself about what's going on in our world, then you're misusing it, right? And like all great technologies and all good gifts, things can be abused and used for the wrong purposes, and this television is really the wrong one all the way around.
And the kids' games and videos and all that stuff.
All of it, sure. Hey, thank you for the call. I appreciate it.
The programming for a reason.
Absolutely. I mean, it is brainwashing, and if you're willing to subject yourself to that and allow your children to be subjected to that, then, it's your own fault. We are allowing our nation to slide away from us, folks. I got an email this morning that was very touching. This woman said to me, what an inspiration. I just wanted to say I love your show and I appreciate all that you do and the patriot that you are. When I saw this quote, I thought of you and I wanted to share it with you. I want to strive to become this person, a true patriot. Have a great day and may the Lord God bless you. And what it says is it's a picture of an American flag. Mm-hmm. And it's got an awesome quote on it that you just have to hear and let this sink in for a moment. And then you have to ask yourself this question. In the beginning of a change, the patriot is a scarce man, brave, hated, and scorned. When his cause succeeds, the timid join him, for then it costs nothing to be a patriot. Mark Twain. Mm-hmm. And I've got to ask you folks, where are you in this timeline? Are you one of the patriots who's scarce, brave, hated, and scorned? Are you one of those people that is sitting there doing your best and fighting daily, tooth and nail, putting out 100% of all of your effort? I'm not telling you got to quit your job. I'm not telling you got to stop going to your kid's ball game. Those are all part of doing your job as a patriotic American. But I'm telling you that if you are not taking every moment that is not dedicated to your work and or your family, and you are not pouring that time into the restoration and the preservation of our republic, then you are going to be one of the timid who will join me and Doreen and those of us who are out there fighting every day. You're going to join us later. Because it's going to cost you nothing then to be a patriot. And you'll be the first to raise your hand and pump that fist in the air and say, we did it. And we're going to look back at you and say, but where were you when we needed you?
Right. Well, Mike, we've got a big job to do, and I think the number one job that people they've got to go out and do it, is get with 4 or 5 of your friends or family and begin to make a plan and start providing for yourselves. First, stock up 1 month's worth of food. Then go for 2.
Right.
Do it do as much as you can and have a plan and meet that plan.
I get it. And stop whining and belly aching that you don't have time or money or energy or effort or whatever that is. Just stop and start putting your time and your plot. And you know what? Don't do it by yourself because it's too big a task to do by yourself. But get together with other folks and learn about how you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And there are plenty of things to help you determine how much you need online. Food calculators. Go
there
ahead
you go.
and search it.
Thank you, Doreen. Appreciate you. Have a great day, folks. We'll be back in the morning.
This is KBMB Birch Tree is the Ozarks best news talk 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Fox News Radio, I'm Dave Anthony. He says the IRS is
too large, too powerful, too intrusive, and too abusive of honest, hard-working taxpayers.
Republican Dave Camp opening the House hearing into the IRS targeting conservative groups. Fox News Radio's Rich Johnson live in Washington.
And at the hearing, the author of the Inspector General's report on the targeting, J. Russell George, summed it up.
The IRS requested unnecessary information for many political cases.
But both George and acting IRS Director Stephen Miller say they did not find any political motivation as part of the IRS workers examining tax-exempt requests. Miller says what did happen was
foolish mistakes were made by people trying to be more efficient in their workload selection.
But panel chairman Dave Camp, again, not buying it. He says it's all part of a culture of cover-ups and political intimidation by the Obama administration. Dave?
Now, Rich Miller will be out of a job next week, and Dan Werfel will take over as the acting IRS commissioner. A training exercise turned deadly at Fort Knox in Kentucky. The Army says a member of the Navy was killed in an accident Wednesday night, and several others were injured. We're not being told yet what went wrong. Russia is arming the Syrians even more amid the U.S. calls for the regime to step down in Syria. And the foreign minister in Russia tells the UN, what's the big deal?
Because it's not illegal and the Kremlin has been transparent about its sales. According to the New York Times, Moscow supplied Damascus with anti-ship cruise missiles. And the latest version it supplied Damascus with makes them more effective against naval vessels. These give Syria the ability to counter any effort by the international community to strengthen the Syrian opposition through a naval embargo. In Moscow, Jessica Gallagher, Fox News Radio.
Millions of Americans are dreaming of winning $550 million. That's tomorrow's Powerball jackpot. Most people say they'd quit their jobs if they won. What would you do?
Open up like an organic supermarket at a discount price so everybody can be able to afford good food at a good price.
This is Fox News Radio. Fair and balanced.
Switch your business to AT&T Enhanced Push to Talk on America's fastest 4G LTE